Hollywood creates legends. But for every adored star, there are those audiences can't stand. Some burned bridges, others made baffling choices, and a few simply rubbed people the wrong way. This is not about criminal scandals. This is about reputations, broken images, and stars who went from loved to loathed. Welcome to the 30 most hated actors in Hollywood. 1. James Corden. At first glance, James Corden seemed harmless, the jolly host with carpool karaoke charm. But behind that cheerful exterior, a darker reputation emerged. Industry insiders whisper about his arrogance, from disrespecting production crews to feuding with fellow stars. Patrick Stewart once called him out publicly. Restaurants even banned him after rude behavior with staff. His nice guy persona clashed with reports of entitlement and dismissiveness, leaving audiences doubting his authenticity. While his comedic timing made him a household name, many believe his ego overshadowed his talent. The more Corden tried to appear humble, the louder critics grew. For Hollywood, he became the perfect example of a performer whose public mask couldn't hide what lurked behind the curtain. 2. Amber Heard. Amber Heard once had the world at her feet, starring in blockbusters like Aquaman, yet her career became overshadowed by one of the most publicized celebrity trials in modern history. Her performance in London Fields was widely panned, earning a Razzie nomination, but it was the courtroom drama with Johnny Depp that cemented her place as one of Hollywood's most disliked figures. Social media erupted with accusations of dishonesty, fueling campaigns to boycott her films. Warner Brothers even debated replacing her in Aquaman 2. To many, her on-screen work no longer mattered. Her public image had collapsed. Once a rising star, Heard became a symbol of how swiftly Hollywood can turn its back when the audience loses trust. 3. Jared Leto. An Oscar winner with undeniable talent, Jared Leto is also one of Hollywood's most polarizing figures. Fans admire his daring transformations, yet critics blast his eccentric behavior and questionable career moves. His portrayal of the Joker in Suicide Squad drew ridicule, with many calling it one of the worst comic book performances ever. Then came Morbius, a film so mocked that it spawned endless internet memes, reducing a serious project to a punchline. Off-screen, tales of his bizarre, method-acting antics, like sending strange gifts to co-stars, only added to the discomfort. Though Leto has moments of brilliance, he embodies the frustrating contradiction of a performer who can deliver greatness but often sinks his projects with decisions that alienate audiences. 4. Katherine Heigl. In the mid-2000s, Katherine Heigl was everywhere. She was Emmy-winning, headlining hit comedies, and seemed destined for long-term stardom. But Heigl quickly earned a reputation that haunted her career. She criticized Knocked Up as sexist, angering Judd Apatow and Seth Rogen, and later dismissed Grey's Anatomy writing, frustrating her colleagues. Rumors of on-set complaints, from wardrobe grievances to script rewrites, spread through the industry. Soon, she was labeled difficult. Ironically, her criticism may have highlighted Hollywood's flaws, but the backlash painted her as ungrateful and combative. Offers dried up. Once billed as America's sweetheart, Heigl became a cautionary tale of how fast an actress can go from adored to abandoned in Hollywood's unforgiving spotlight. 5. Chevy Chase. Few comedians shaped American humor like Chevy Chase. From Saturday Night Live to National Lampoon's Vacation, he was a legend. Yet behind the laughs, Chase developed a reputation as one of the most unpleasant stars to work with. His feuds were legendary. A physical fight with Bill Murray, clashes with SNL castmates, and later, bitter arguments with Community creator Dan Harmon. Crew members described him as dismissive and cruel. Despite his talent, many colleagues openly admitted they hated working with him. For Chase, the tragedy lies in his legacy. Once celebrated as a comedy icon, his behavior left him remembered as someone admired for talent but despised for temperament. 6. Ezra Miller. Once hailed as a fresh, unconventional talent, Ezra Miller's career spiraled into controversy. Known for standout roles in The Perks of Being a Wallflower and Fantastic Beasts, Miller seemed destined for long-lasting stardom. But beginning in 2020, troubling headlines dominated the narrative. A viral video showed Miller choking a fan outside a bar in Iceland. Soon after, allegations of grooming, violent outbursts, and erratic behavior surfaced. Warner Brothers gambled on Miller by releasing The Flash despite the scandals, but the film flopped and the backlash was merciless. What should have been a crowning moment in their career became a cautionary tale about how personal chaos can overshadow talent. Once seen as a groundbreaking star, Miller became a lightning rod for criticism, proof that Hollywood's patience has limits when scandal refuses to fade. 7. Kevin James. Kevin James found early success on the beloved sitcom The King of Queens, where audiences adored his everyman charm. But his big screen career told a different story. Films like Paul Blart, Mall Cop, Grown Ups, and I Now Pronounce You Chuck, and Larry drew widespread ridicule. Partnering with Adam Sandler's Happy Madison Productions may have brought box office dollars, but it also linked James to some of the most panned comedies of the 2000s and 2010s. Critics argue his characters lean too heavily on cheap slapstick and tired gags, while others accuse him of coasting on Sandler's brand. Despite his financial success, James earned multiple Razzie nominations and became a symbol of disposable comedy. Loved as Doug Heffernan but despised as a movie star, James represents the tricky divide between television fame and cinematic infamy. 8. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr was once the voice of the working-class American family. Her sitcom Roseanne revolutionized television in the late 1980s, blending sharp humor with raw honesty. For a while, she was celebrated as a trailblazer, but in later years, her reputation suffered under the weight of repeated controversies. From bizarre magazine photo shoots to incendiary conspiracy-laden tweets, Barr seemed determined to shock. The final blow came in 2018 when a racist tweet about political figure Valerie Jarrett led ABC to cancel the Roseanne reboot overnight. To many fans, the woman who once spoke for them had become unrecognizable. While she carved her name into TV history, Barr's inability to step away from inflammatory remarks ensured she would be remembered as much for her downfall as for her groundbreaking success. 9. Jason Biggs. Jason Biggs owes much of his fame to American Pie, a cultural juggernaut that made him a household name. But outside of that franchise, his career choices and public persona left audiences frustrated. His role on Orange is the New Black was criticized as dull and unnecessary, paling in comparison to the show's vibrant cast. Worse, Biggs drew heavy criticism for a string of tasteless Twitter jokes, mocking a tragic plane crash, posting crude comments, and lashing out in ways that alienated fans. Once viewed as a relatable, awkward everyman, he became synonymous with tone-deaf humor and fading relevance. For many, Biggs's downfall wasn't tied to a single role but to his own inability to read the room. The actor who once embodied youthful awkwardness became a reminder of how quickly charm can sour when comedy misses the mark. 10. John Travolta. There was a time when John Travolta was untouchable. With Saturday Night Fever and Grease, he became a cultural icon. Later, Pulp Fiction resurrected his career in dramatic fashion. But the decades since have not been kind. Travolta's film choices, from the infamous Battlefield Earth to The Fanatic, left critics stunned by how far he had fallen. Razzie nominations piled up, cementing his decline. Beyond the screen, rumors about his private life often overshadowed his acting, leading to late-night jokes and endless tabloid speculation. While he remains a beloved figure for past glories, today many audiences cringe at his newer projects, questioning how such a powerhouse could consistently choose so poorly. Travolta's legacy is complicated, adored for the past but often mocked for the present. 11. Chris Pratt. For years, Chris Pratt was Hollywood's golden boy. From the goofy charm of Parks and Recreation to his breakout roles in Guardians of the Galaxy and Jurassic World, audiences couldn't get enough. But the tide turned. In 2020, the internet dubbed him the worst Chris, compared to Hemsworth, Pine, and Evans. Critics point to his outspoken religious affiliations, controversial speeches, and the perception that he abandoned Anna Faris, his former wife, for greener pastures. Add in fatigue from his oversaturation, appearing in every blockbuster, even voicing Mario, and his once beloved image eroded. Where he was once the lovable underdog, many now see an overexposed star whose public persona doesn't match the humility of Andy Dwyer. Pratt's fall illustrates Hollywood's brutal shift. The crowd that crowns you king can just as quickly turn you into a punchline. 12th. Gal Gadot. She was Wonder Woman, a global star who inspired millions. Yet Gal Gadot's shine has dulled in recent years. Critics accuse her of flat, uninspired performances, calling her screen presence wooden and forgettable. But beyond acting, it was her public choices that soured opinions. In 2020, during the height of global tragedy, Gadot led a celebrity Imagine sing-along that was derided as tone-deaf and out of touch. Her comments on the Israel-Palestine conflict sparked additional backlash, with detractors claiming she failed to show sensitivity to a deeply complex issue. Once celebrated as a unifying figure in cinema, Gadot became a lightning rod for criticism. For many, her downfall lies not in her beauty or fame but in how disconnected she seemed from the very audiences who once adored her. 13. Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen's story is the story of self-destruction in public view. For decades, he was a major Hollywood draw, starring in Platoon, Wall Street, and 2.5 Men. But behind the screen, Sheen spiraled into controversy fueled by substance abuse, erratic behavior, and endless scandals. His firing from 2.5 Men was only the beginning. Sheen's public rants, complete with bizarre catchphrases like winning, turned him into a late-night punchline. Once admired for his talent and charisma, he became a cautionary tale about fame, addiction, and excess. For every fan who admired his past roles, countless others lost patience with his antics. His legacy is split, half comedy legend, half cautionary example of what happens when Hollywood excess finally collapses. 14. Andy Dick. Andy Dick's reputation is perhaps one of Hollywood's most notorious. Known for his chaotic comedic style, Dick often burned bridges faster than he built them. His erratic behavior included being banned from sets, kicked out of events, and even physically removed from stages. Colleagues described him as unpredictable, disrespectful, and often offensive. Beyond his work, personal scandals piled up, cementing him as a figure audiences and insiders alike found exhausting. Even in comedy circles where outrageousness can be tolerated, Dick crossed too many lines. For years, his name became shorthand for unprofessionalism and self-destruction. While some remember his quirky humor, most remember the drama, the chaos, and the sense that Hollywood was collectively tired of Andy Dick long before his career faded from the spotlight. 15. Gwyneth Paltrow. Gwyneth Paltrow is undeniably talented, with an Academy Award and roles in cultural staples like Shakespeare in Love and Iron Man, yet her reputation soured not because of acting, but because of her lifestyle empire. Goop. Selling jade eggs, coffee enemas, and pseudoscientific cures, Paltrow turned herself into a business mogul, but also a cultural punchline. Health experts blasted her for promoting dangerous or absurd products, and audiences began to see her as out of touch with reality. Instead of being celebrated as an accomplished actress, she became mocked as a wellness guru, selling fantasies. Paltrow still holds a loyal fan base, but her place on this list highlights how quickly respect can shift when celebrity ventures clash with credibility. 16. Jesse Eisenberg. Jesse Eisenberg carved out his career with sharp-tongued, fast-talking roles in films like The Social Network, but audiences quickly grew weary of what they saw as a repetitive shtick. Many accused him of being a one-note actor, playing variations of the same anxious, twitchy character again and again. His portrayal of Lex Luthor in Batman vs. Superman was panned as one of the most miscast choices in modern comic book history, amplifying frustrations with his style. To make matters worse, Eisenberg gained a reputation for arrogance after a painfully awkward 2013 interview where he belittled the journalist. For some, that moment sealed the perception of him as smug rather than endearing. While undeniably talented, Eisenberg's quirks and attitude made him divisive, loved by a niche crowd but increasingly disliked by the larger Hollywood audience. 17. Ashton Kutcher. At first, Ashton Kutcher was Hollywood's favorite prankster. His goofy role on That 70s Show and MTV's Punk'd made him a household name. But when he tried to transition into leading man status, critics and audiences weren't impressed. Films like Killers, Valentine's Day, and Just Married drew Razzie nominations, cementing his reputation as more of a celebrity than an actor. While his business ventures in tech earned respect, his career on screen faltered. More recently, Kutcher faced intense backlash after publicly supporting former co-star Danny Masterson during his trial, which led to public outrage and damaged the wholesome image he cultivated with wife Mila Kunis. Once a symbol of youthful fun, Kutcher is now seen by many as a star whose off-screen decisions overshadow whatever charm his on-screen career once held. 18. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry built an empire. As the creator of the Medea films, he became one of the most financially successful figures in Hollywood. Yet, despite his billion-dollar net worth, his work is among the most ridiculed. The Medea films, while profitable, are derided for perpetuating stereotypes and recycling tired jokes. Critics like Spike Lee even compared them to minstrel shows, sparking heated debates. Perry has also been criticized for writing and directing almost entirely by himself, often leading to rushed scripts and awkward pacing. For many, he represents a frustrating contradiction, a man with undeniable influence and resources who repeatedly delivers what many consider low-quality entertainment. Audiences may respect his hustle, but his films have left a lasting mark as some of the most divisive works in modern Hollywood. 19th. Rob Schneider. Rob Schneider's career launched with Saturday Night Live, but it was his collaborations with Adam Sandler that defined and damaged his reputation. Movies like Deuce Bigalow, Male Gigolo, The Hot Chick, and The Benchwarmers were box office embarrassments and critical disasters. Critics saw him as the poster child of lazy slapstick, with comedy reliant on crude gags and little substance. Beyond his acting, Schneider's public stance as an outspoken anti-vaccine advocate only fueled dislike, especially when his medical claims were debunked. Instead of reviving his career, these positions made him appear out of touch and misinformed. While some still laugh at his cameo catchphrases in Sandler films, most audiences view Schneider as a comedian who squandered his early potential on shallow projects and controversial beliefs. 20th. Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin thrived on controversy. She branded herself a D-list comedian who mocked A-list stars, making her a cult favorite in comedy circles. But her brash, unfiltered style eventually backfired. From being banned at venues like the Apollo Theater to publicly feuding with celebrities, Griffin built as many enemies as she did fans. The turning point came in 2017 when she posed in a shocking political protest photo that depicted a severed head. The backlash was immediate and devastating. She lost jobs, endorsements, and faced public outrage. Griffin herself admitted she went too far. While some admire her boldness, many saw it as crossing a line that could never be erased. Once edgy and fearless, she became a case study in how provocation can tip into career-destroying infamy. 21st. Tom Green. Tom Green was once the king of absurd comedy. His late 90s MTV show pioneered shock humor that paved the way for Jackass and other stunt-driven comedies. But when he made the leap to film, his reputation plummeted. His infamous movie Freddy Got Fingered is still considered one of the worst films ever made, winning multiple Razzie Awards. While Green claimed his style was avant-garde, most saw it as gross-out comedy gone too far. His unpredictable antics, from bizarre sketches to surreal interviews, earned him cult status but alienated mainstream audiences. Over time, his career faded, remembered less for innovation and more for tasteless extremes. Tom Green became a reminder that comedy which thrives on shock has a short shelf life, and the audience's patience isn't endless. 22nd. Russell Brand. Russell Brand burst onto the scene with rapid-fire wit and eccentric charisma, winning fans in films like Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Yet his unique style soon wore thin. Critics say he plays the same character in every role, a fast-talking, self-absorbed oddball. Off-screen, Brand's personal controversies added to the dislike. From his brash self-promotion to inflammatory social commentary, he often made headlines for the wrong reasons. His outspoken views during global health crises only deepened the divide, with some calling him irresponsible. For others, it was simply his overbearing personality, demanding attention at every turn, that soured their opinion. Brand's downfall wasn't about a lack of talent, but about overexposure, arrogance, and a perception that he became more interested in being a spectacle than a performer. 23rd. Jaime Kennedy. Jaime Kennedy will forever be remembered for his role as Randy in Scream, where he played the lovable horror geek. But outside that franchise, his career choices left audiences shaking their heads. Malibu's Most Wanted painted him as a cultural caricature, while Son of the Mask was so poorly received that critics called it one of the worst sequels ever made. Kennedy even hosted a disastrous New Year's Eve special in 2013 that was widely ridiculed for its sloppy production and awkward moments. While he tried to reinvent himself as a stand-up comedian, his reputation as a failed movie star stuck. For many, Kennedy symbolizes squandered potential, a talented supporting actor who stumbled badly when given the spotlight. His name now carries more notoriety than nostalgia. 24th. Pauly Shore. In the 1990s, Pauly Shore was everywhere. With his surfer dude voice and quirky persona, he starred in comedies like Encino Man, Biodome, and Jury Duty. But audiences quickly grew tired of his one-note act. Critics dismissed his films as lazy, unfunny, and fueled only by catchphrases. By the end of the decade, Shore had become a punchline himself, often ranked among the worst actors of his generation. The Razzies went so far as to name him Worst New Star of the Decade, and later, Worst Actor of the Century. While he's leaned into the joke in later years, his career never recovered. Pauly Shore's fall from fame is one of Hollywood's fastest, a reminder that fleeting trends rarely make lasting stars. 25th. Lea Michele. Lea Michele rose to fame as Rachel Berry on Glee, a role that seemed tailor-made for her powerhouse voice and commanding stage presence. But as her fame grew, so did whispers of diva-like behavior. In 2020, co-star Samantha Ware accused her of bullying and creating a toxic environment on set. Other cast members echoed those claims, painting Michele as arrogant and difficult to work with. Fans began to connect her real-life behavior with her on-screen character's self-absorbed nature, blurring the line between fiction and reality. The backlash damaged her reputation and cast a shadow over her Broadway comeback. Once hailed as a rising star with boundless talent, Lea Michele became another example of how toxic workplace behavior can erode even the brightest careers. 26. Steven Seagal. Steven Seagal once stormed Hollywood as a martial arts icon, bringing stoic toughness to action films like Under Siege. But his reputation unraveled quickly. Critics blasted his later films as lazy, poorly acted, and often self-indulgent vanity projects. Behind the scenes, Seagal earned a reputation for arrogance and mistreating stunt performers, accused of hitting harder than necessary to prove dominance. Numerous co-stars and crew described him as unprofessional and difficult, while personal controversies only deepened the dislike. Once seen as a martial arts legend, Seagal became a symbol of faded action stars clinging to past glory. Today, he's less remembered for heroic roles than for off-screen arrogance and a career riddled with critical disasters. 27. Jaden Smith. As the son of Will and Jada, Jaden Smith was positioned for greatness. His early work in The Pursuit of Happiness and The Karate Kid showed promise, but critics argued his career was built more on nepotism than talent. The 2013 flop After Earth, a family passion project, became a turning point, with Jaden's performance panned and his Razzie win sealing the backlash. Beyond acting, his eccentric public statements about education and reality fueled ridicule rather than admiration. Once seen as a fresh face in Hollywood, Jaden struggled to escape the shadow of his parents. His career stands as a reminder of the challenges Nepo babies face. When fame is inherited rather than earned, audiences are often harsher and mistakes become amplified. 28th. Amy Schumer. Amy Schumer shot to fame as one of comedy's boldest new voices, blending frank observations with unflinching humor. Yet, as her stardom grew, so did the backlash. Many criticized her reliance on crude and repetitive material, while others accused her of borrowing jokes from other comedians, a cardinal sin in comedy. Her films, like Snatched and I Feel Pretty, failed to win over audiences, further feeding the narrative that she was overhyped. Online, the dislike turned intense, with critics labeling her unfunny, arrogant, or desperate for shock value. While she maintains a loyal fan base, Schumer became one of the most divisive figures in modern comedy. Loved or loathed, she illustrates how quickly public opinion can turn against a rising star. 29th. Cara Delevingne. Cara Delevingne transitioned from a successful modeling career into acting, but the move was rocky. Her starring role in Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets was widely ridiculed, with critics calling her wooden and chemistry-free. Her turn in Suicide Squad fared no better, drawing mockery for its over-the-top performance. Fans of TV series like Only Murders in the Building even criticized her inclusion, claiming she dragged the quality down. To many, Delevingne lacked the depth and training to handle serious roles. What should have been a bright crossover career became a string of disappointments. While she remains a fashion icon, her Hollywood career stands as an example of how fame in one industry doesn't guarantee respect in another. 30th. James Corden. James Corden may host with a smile, but his behind-the-scenes reputation tells a different story. Reports of arrogance, feuds with fellow actors, and poor treatment of staff painted him as a difficult personality. Even restaurants banned him after public outbursts. While carpool karaoke made him a household name, critics argue his charm is a facade, hiding entitlement and ego. Audiences on both sides of the Atlantic grew weary of him, and colleagues admitted he was tough to endure. For a man who built his career on appearing approachable, the gap between perception and reality was too wide to ignore. James Corden became a symbol of how a star can fall when the mask finally slips. From fading icons to rising stars undone by their own choices, these actors remind us how fragile fame can be. Hollywood builds legends, but it also tears them down. Which of these names shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more untold Hollywood stories.